प्रसीद प्रसीद मातः जगतोऽखिलस्य प्रसीद विश्वेश्वरि पाहि विश्वं त्वमीश्वरी देवी चराचरस्य त्वं वैष्णवी शक्तिरनन्तवीर्या विश्वस्य बीजं परमासि माया सम्मोहितं देवि समस्तमेतत् त्वं वै प्रसन्ना भुवि मुक्तिहेतुः।
Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Sri Matre Namaha. We continue with Devi Mahatmyam, and here let us understand the importance of chanting Keelaka Stotram, the Devi Kavacham, Argala Stotram, Keelaka Stotram and Ratri Suktam. These are recited before the core text. Before we begin the stotra, let me add a few words. Durgamba is referred to as Prakriti Swarupini, which is the Almighty Nature. Born of her, we also have the same Prakriti, the nature comprising of the 3 gunas and the 5 elements, which become the relative pure consciousness, and the source of this is the absolute pure consciousness or the Shiva. As a human being, we have the mixture of these 2 qualities, the negative and the positive, which are the Asuri and the Devi. The Asuri qualities are the demonic or the negative tendencies, and the Devi qualities are the positive and more life enhancing and evolutionary. We come from this unity of this absolute pure consciousness of Shiva, but we gain the duality in this human existence. So we have these opposing dual elements or qualities called Dvandva, which is dual. These are also referred to as pair of opposites, and we see this all across the nature. For example, hot and cold, day and night, happiness and suffering, Komala and Katina. Komala is softness and Katina is harshness. So our whole purpose of the sadhana is to transcend this pair of opposites and attain the Purnatva in the awareness. So attaining this Purnatva in the awareness means appreciating these pair of opposites and the gunas, both the gunas, at the same time. For example, if you look at the rose bush, then you should be able to appreciate the rose and the thorn at the same time. And so you should be able to comprehend within you and also in the others these opposites at the same time. And that means one develops the awareness of all that is there in this duality. All that there is, all the negative and all the positive and all the opposing elements have to be brought to the awareness at the same time. That means one should be awake to the unity and the diversity at the same time. Because you are the unity, you have come from that unity, and your whole sadhana is to gain that unity. And from that vantage point of unity, then you look at the whole of diversity. Then you embrace this diversity and you accept this diversity with great love and respect. In the whole of the nature, we know that there is nothing that is the same. It is bhinna prakriti. That means different varieties of prakriti. So different kinds of qualities and realities exist. So how can we rise to the status where one is awake to both the prakriti of the Asuri and the Devi? And this can only happen by rising in consciousness. One has to experience the pure consciousness of who you are, your self-realization, and from that platform then you can see the limitations and the boundaries, the lack of clarity, and these aspects of the lower consciousness clearly. And this you begin to cognize within yourself and also in all of the nature around you. So then our sadhana is to transcend the form of Devi and to arrive at the transcendental consciousness, which is pure consciousness, which is Devi and also you. In this Keelaka Stotra, when it is mentioned that you focus on the conscious form of Devi, this is what it means, the transcendental form of Devi, the transcendental eternal self who is the Durgamba. And so by attaching or pinning down this transcendental form of Devi to each mantra, then one attains all the desires and all the powers of Devi herself. And this is the secret of this Keelaka Stotram. And Bhagavan Shiva has given this stipulation of pinning down or nailing down Devi's conscious form, which is the transcendental eternal self, the Bhagavati, to each mantra. And this happens when we transcend, and thereby we also transcend all this negative violence and the negativity that we see in the Devi Mahatmyam. We begin to see that it is just on that changing sphere. Our focus is not on the violence then, but our focus is on Devi herself. And this Devi who is vanquishing and who is destroying all these negative tendencies and all these asuras. So our focus and our adoration and our devotion is on Devi. Now let's listen to the Keelaka Stotram.
श्रीमहासा विविद्यते विनायाप्येन सिद्धेत सर्वमुच्चाटनादिकम् समग्राण्यपि सिद्ध्यन्ति लोकशङ्कामिमां हरः कृत्वा निमन्त्रयामास सर्वमेवमिदं शुभम् स्तोत्रं वै चण्डिकायास्तु तच्च गुह्यं चकारसः समाप्तिर्न च पुण्यस्य तायथावन्नियन्त्रणात् सोऽपि क्षेममवाप्नोति सर्वमेव न संशयः कृष्णायां वा चतुर्दश्यामष्टम्यां वा समाहितः ददाति प्रतिगृह्णाति नान्यथैषा प्रसीदति इत्थं रूपेण कीलेन महादेवेन कीलितम् यो निष्कीलां विधायैनां नित्यं जपति सुस्फुटम् स सिद्धः सगणः सोऽपि गन्धर्वो जायते वने न चैवाप्यटनस्तस्य भयं क्वापि जायते नापमृत्युवशं याति मृतो मोक्षमवाप्नुयात् ज्ञात्वा प्रारभ्य कुर्वेद ह्यकुर्वाणो विनश्यति ततो ज्ञात्वैव सम्पन्नमिदं प्रारभ्यते बुधैः सौभाग्यादि च यत्किञ्चित् दृश्यते ललनाजने तत्सर्वं तत्प्रसादेन तेन जाप्यमिदं शुभम् शनैस्तु जप्यमानेऽस्मिन् स्तोत्रे सम्पत्तिरुच्चकैः भवत्येव समग्रापि ततः प्रारभ्यमेव तत् ऐश्वर्यै यत्प्रसादेन सौभाग्यारोग्यसम्पदः शत्रुहारिवरो मोक्षस्तु यते सा न किञ्जनैः भगवत्या कीलकस्तोत्रम्.
Here is the translation to Keelaka Stotram, Vishuddha Gnana Dehaya Trivedi Divya Chakshuse. Sage Markandeya says, I offer my salutations to one, the essence of whose form is that of pure knowledge. That means pure absolute consciousness, which is Vishuddha Gnana Dehaya, and whose three divine eyes form the three Vedas. That is Trivedi Divya Chakshuse. To imbibe that auspiciousness of pure knowledge, I meditate on Shiva and Shakti in their conscious blissful form. I offer my salutations to Shiva, who bears the half of Soma, that is the crescent moon, in his head. And also I offer my salutations to Shakti, who bears the half of Soma as Ardhanariswara, because Soma is another name of Shiva. Since Shakti bears half the body of Shiva, so Devi also has the same qualities of Shiva, of Vishuddha Gnanadeha and Trivedi Divya Chakshusu. Here, Keelaka is a pin or nail, and the conscious form of Shakti is pinned to all the mantras of Devi Mahatmyam. And this is the underlying principle which Bhagavan Shiva gave through the Keelaka Stotram. So again, all these hymns of the Keelaka Stotram, one should know, are indeed the Keelaka or the pin by which these mantras of Devi Mahatmyam are pinned to the conscious form of Devi. So one who is devoted to Devi and continuously chant these hymns, and one who continuously meditates on the conscious form of Devi and transcends the form to attain the transcendental consciousness, pure consciousness, which is the Parameshwari, the transcendental eternal self, one indeed attains great tranquility of mind. By extolling the Devi with devotional fervor, with this collection of these hymns, and knowing their true importance, then one accomplishes eradication of all the inner enemies to the very root, and then gains all the spiritual accomplishments. These are not mantras alone, because here reciting Devi Mahatmyam is not like chanting any mantra just to obtain the fruit of your desires or eradication of the inner enemies. But these are the mantras used for meditation on the conscious form of Devi and merging our ego in her. That means our individual ego merges with the cosmic ego, and the small self then becomes the big self. So in essence, there are no mantras or hymns or aushadha or medicines that are available which can accomplish this eradication of the inner enemies and the negative tendencies without a trace. That means eradicating it at the root level. When people had an apprehension and expressed to Lord Shiva about reciting the Devi Mahatmyam, which appears to be full of violence, and they expressed their doubts as to how they can accomplish the destruction of their own inner enemies and attain salvation. Then Bhagavan Shiva summoned or invoked the pin of Keelaka. He then pinned the underlying principle of the conscious form of Devi to all the mantras of Devi Mahatmyam. By doing so, Bhagavan Shiva made all the mantras auspicious. So now the violence in the battlefield became the auspicious forces purging us from within, purging us from the negative qualities, from the inner enemies, and from the many obstacles and doubts. And this is the secret of this stotra of Devi Chandika, the Keelaka Stotra. The secret here is that the conscious form of Devi, which is the object of meditation, is pinned to every mantra of this great Devi Mahatmyam. So, when one meditates on her eternal conscious form, the Parameshwari or the Parashakti, then she is invoked in the right manner by these mantras, and one achieves everything that is auspicious in life. One who meditates on Devi on Krishna Paksha Chaturdasi or Ashtami of the month indeed attains tranquility of mind and attains all the other fruits. And Bhagavan Shiva says, have no doubt about it. While meditating on the conscious form of Devi, During this recitation of Devi Mahatmyam, one should also be able to surrender to her lotus feet and receive in turn her grace. So, her grace has to be awakened, and in turn let her grace awaken you. So here the two important aspects are the devotion and the transcendence. So in this manner, by the pin of the Keelaka Stotram, Mahadeva pinned the mantras of Devi Mahatmyam and made the meditation on the conscious form of Devi as the central theme. He who, after pinning the Keelaka, can make her manifest, that is, invokes her conscious form in the heart and then recites the Chandi mantras, and also by constantly transcending on her form, on her conscious form, he becomes a Siddha, that means one who is spiritually accomplished, and he becomes a Gana, that means who is an attendant of the Devi, and he can also become a Gandharva, a celestial singer who glorifies Devi. This can all be achieved. Further, he does not become handicapped with major diseases. Fear does not rise in him anywhere, which leads to unnecessary anxiety. He does not become victim of premature death, and after death attains moksha or liberation. Again, this has to be understood clearly, because no one attains liberation after death. It is the transcendence of the body and the transcendence of this body consciousness, which also the samadhi is like death. And this repeated samadhis is what brings the liberation when one is still in the body. It is only after knowing this Keelakam, this importance of pinning the mantras to the Devi's conscious form, that one should begin the recitation of Devi Mahatmyam. If it is not done in this way, then one is deprived of the fruits of recitation. And this is why it is important to understand this Keelaka Stotra fully before starting the recitation and the transcendence of Devi Mahatmyam. Whatever good fortune, beauty, charm, and grace that are seen in women are the result of Devi's blessings. Therefore, all women should chant this auspicious stotra and meditate on the auspicious form of Devi. So here again, meditation on the auspicious form of Devi means transcending this auspicious form and experiencing Devi as the transcendental self. If this stotra is chanted gently and then also meditating, then one attains the wealth of this Atma-Jnanam, or the knowledge of the self, easily. One experiences the wholeness and one experiences the unity, and one experiences that Devi is behind everything, beyond all this diversity and multiplicity, and the individual ego rises to be the cosmic ego, and the individual self becomes the higher self. So one should undertake the chanting of this Keelaka Stotram. It is by Devi's grace that all the divine qualities or the Aishwaryam are awakened. It is by her grace that good fortune, Saubhagya, and health, which is free from disease, and wealth are manifested. It is by her grace that all enemies are eradicated, both the inner and the outer. And it is by her grace that one attains the highest liberation, moksha. Why shouldn't she be praised and adored by her devotees? When one constantly remembers the conscious form of Devi Chandika in his heart with great devotion, then one attains his innermost longing. And Devi will always dwell in such a devotee's heart. And one experiences Devi in one's own consciousness. So here Mahadeva gave this Keelaka, the pinning, as a preventive measure so that one can transcend the doubts and the concerns and be attached to Devi instead of all the negativity and all the diversity. After realizing the importance, then one can unpin and recite the Devi Mahatmyam with concentration and pure devotion, and further transcend this conscious form of Devi. So here ends the Keelaka Stotram. Jai Gurudev. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.